Hello, everybody, and welcome to Building Bridges, Discovering Your Path to Peace. Today, our special guest is also a very good friend of mine, Mr. Bill Mont from Halifax. And his whole life story is incredible. And instead of me bungling it up, I'm going to let him tell the whole thing from beginning to end. So, welcome, Mr. Bill Mont, to Building Bridges.
Thank you, Max.
All righty. So you started out rather in extenuating circumstances. You were adopted by your parents, were you, Bill?
Yeah, it was a tough life at the beginning. I mean, it's at the beginning depression. Start with when I was born, 1929, May 21st. So right at the beginning of depression, I come into the world. And it was a situation where things were bad and money was tight and the whole thing. And my father, he was a boxer, actually. I guess the idea he would go down to the stage, ride what they call ride the rods underneath the box cars, and he would go around boxing and fighting and so on, and trying to earn money to keep it going. Really couldn't keep, I guess, us going, my mother and myself.
I see.
So actually became champion down there in Washington, D.C. But then on the way back, I guess the idea was we were going to get married. He made a little money, and but he lost his life on the way back. He got into a boxcar, I guess. There's a story attached to it where I guess they had something about keeping wine or church wine from freezing or something. But anyway, whatever it was, he got his heater or asphyxiator or something done him in. So when he got back to here, he was all over. So that was I was 5 years old at that point.
My.
So from there on, it ended up my mother and I, and my mother had this friend or relation or something. I still haven't got the story in it, but bottom line, we were with this, I looked on him like he's a grandfather. So anyway, he got married and they took us in. So now we're looking at two burdens, my mother and I, on our adopted step-parents. Now, he was okay, my stepfather. He worked at the shipyards. He was a policeman and a crane operator and so on. So he had a fairly good job. And I don't know how my stepmother and him got together, but she was a really tough old Irish Newfoundlander. I mean, she could make stew out of bones, dog bones, or whatever.
A leather shoe. Right?
So we kind of drifted around place to place a little bit. Somehow or another, I don't know, we got parted, my mother and stepfather. It ended up with me with my stepmother up in Quebec, going to a school, French school. I don't know nothing about French. I'm stumbling around there for all. I don't know the whole story, but we ended up back together. So then we moved into a place called Greenbank. Now that was the poor white section of Halifax on the south end. And that was right now where the container pier is, Halterm. That was where our property was.
I see.
Now we were just renting. It started off, we were just renting. And it was cheap rent. I mean, there were about 30 families there, mostly French from down around Cape Breton there, Lordways and Airchet and so on. So it was a tight little knit community. And a lot of them were people who worked on the waterfront or around that area. And so anyway, we lived in this rented house for a while. And the next thing anyway, my stepmother says, okay, we're going to have to get you helping to keep the family going and making some money. But before that, I'm going to go back. I'm going to this school, in Tar Road School. That's the rich kids' school up on Yonge Avenue. And I'm in Greenbank, the poor section. So it wasn't that far away. But anyway, it was just up around the corner. And I went to one grade and back the next year. And so now she's saying, you got to get your own pencils. Get them from the teacher. I'm 9 years old. Lead pencils. So I go to school, and the teacher says, we don't give you pencils. You got to get them home.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't get them home.
Yeah.
I can't give them a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? The next morning, I just don't go to school.
Right.
I play hooky, what they call hooky.
Sure.
So next morning, anyway, the truant officer was down there to see me and take me up in front of the judge. And did you play hooky from school? Yes. He didn't ask me why.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'll get you to school. We'll give you 9 years in reform school.
God.
9 years. And so out I went to the reform school. It was called the industrial school. It was over on Shabukta Road. I was lucky. I got out in 2.5 years. I mean, it wasn't all easy. I mean, like I flushed the toilet one night. It overflowed. It wasn't my fault. And of course, I got some pretty good wide strap on the beer behind there for that.
Lord.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. And were there a lot of kids in your situation who
Yeah, it was quite
were truant? They didn't go to school, and so they put them there?
Yeah, for various reasons. I don't know. It seemed like a dumping place for to get rid of kids that there was a problems, any kind of problem. And mine was a pretty small problem, I thought.
Yeah.
So I got out. So the next summer, where I'd normally be out vacationing or whatever you want to call it, or out
Sure.
for the
Summer
summer break, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I got a job in the shipyards.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you then?
I would have been about around 12,
Mm-hmm.
close to 12. And it was a boiler chipper and scaler job. It just had to be the most claustrophobic, dirty job that you could ever get anywhere. We were down in the bilges of the ship, the very
and you're a child. You're a child.
very bottom of the ship. All these honeycomb little openings you'd have to go through and wipe up a bit of water and oil and stuff. Down the manhole down the other end of the ship, always worrying that somebody's going to close the door, the trap door thing. And these are only small quarters. It's just all honeycomb in this little hole.
Right.
You could see another crew over there.
Right.
And I don't know how I finally went down, but I said to myself, once more, that's it. And I was lucky I got out of there. I said, never. And then in boiler tubes, too.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be about 12 feet long. Very, very, not very wide, maybe 3 feet. All soot, top, bottom, all over. Cleaning them up. Always worrying somebody's going to shove the door a little clean shut. Claustrophobia. Then I get in a boiler tank. Well, that wasn't too bad. At least I could stand up, and it wasn't too bad. So I done a summer of that. Back to school. Okay, so and I'm leading my grades in school too. So back out. Now we're going to get a job again, but the railway. So I'm down picking up garbage on the tracks,
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff and different things, the dirty jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's time to go back to school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 13. No, you're not going back to school now. You're a man now. You got to keep going and help the household.
Wow. This was your stepmother.
Stepmother, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I got to come back a bit. Just before, just when I came out of the
reform school, you mean?
out of the reform school,
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for my mother. Where's my mother? She's in the mental hospital, in mental institution.
Oh my.
So I'm going out there seeing her. There's nothing wrong with her. But my stepmother connived to get her stuck in there, and she's not going to let her go out unless she marries this old coot that's 40 years older than her.
Oh my.
And
God.
in other words, she's don't want her. We weren't wanted, my mother and I.
Mm-hmm. Oh my Lord.
Anyway, she married the old fella, and she finally got out. I used to go down and get bananas off the banana boat and take them in and see her on a Sunday and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, now I'm working on the railway. And I graduated from picking up garbage on the tracks to up in the railway station, clean the railway station.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there in as a red cap,
Mm-hmm.
carrying baggage, then gradually up in the superintendent's office,
Mm-hmm.
looking after the railway cars and everything, where they're at, where they're not. Quite a job.
Right.
But besides all that, I've registered as a stevedore a freight handler, you know, the whole works.
Yes.
Now down there in the South End, Pier 22, for instance, all down through the, I done all those jobs, checking the box cars, cleaning the tracks, stevedoring, carrying the baggage. I carried baggage for a whole bunch of movie stars.
You told me, name some of them. Alan Ladd.
I'm starting to lose it.
Ronald Reagan.
Yeah,
You
Ronald
told me,
Reagan,
right?
you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
Virginia Mayo.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wow.
I got there, I still got, when I did, I put them on the boat, not Reagan, but I put the other ones all on the Mauritania ship, going to England apparently. And I managed to save, is that a good word? Save their tags off their baggage. For
yes,
for
and you still have those today, eh?
Still got them.
Oh, he's quite a collector, our Bill.
So I went from there. I started to get into a few other things, but anyway, railway was that. So now we're in this green bank, and all of a sudden it gets sold out from under us. We didn't own the houses at that time, although we did end up buying houses, but we didn't own the land. We owned the houses, but not the land. So we were getting 1 month, take your house and get out of there.
Oh my God. So what did you do?
Well, I took what I could of my house and whatever else I could gather up, and I took one out to Spryville and built a house out there.
Oh, so you actually dismantled the house, took all the pieces down and moved it.
Yeah, never built a house before, but I got one together.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got one together. And so they just took all the rock underneath our houses and filled in for the container pier. Now that was my playground. So it wasn't as bad as you would think. It was bad, but not that bad. Depends on what you make out of it. Now my Point Pleasant Park was right there.
Oh, it's such a beautiful area.
My swimming hole was right there, Black Rock Beach.
Yeah.
And the skating was Steele's Ponds right there. And if there's all kinds of things there that I could do.
Sure.
It was really good. So from there on, anyway, what did I do next? Let's see, so anyway, I built the house and I decided on the railway. I was just about 16 years finally before I made up my mind to decide to get away from the railway. So I built the house, sold it, made some money, and now I'm ready to head for California. California is my thing. So
go west, young man.
Yeah. And in the meantime, on my way practically, and I met this lady, and I got married. She was a nice lady. She was from quite an interesting family in Eastern Passage, the Horns of Eastern Passage, who incidentally owned Devil's Island, which I eventually owned, and a big piece of Eastern Passage. So we got married, nice lady, Sunday school teacher, good family, never drank, smoked, run around, the whole works. It was all there. So away we go. So, but there was one flaw. She was homesick. So would you believe that the first job I went out there, the first thing I done, I should say, is I bought this employment agency for $500 from an old lady that had enough. I'm there at grade 6 buying an employment agency, gonna start interviewing people from all over the world streaming into California.
Yes.
I remember the first one come in. It was Dr. Wu Chu or something, some relation to Yu Chant, the United Nations head of it. Dr. So-and-so, okay, and I lost all my factories over in Burma and communist or whatever. So I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm there with grade 6, and this guy's got a
PhD.
Yeah. I didn't even know it was what he said. I'm a doctor. I just figured medical doctor.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously I couldn't do a heck of a lot for him. I said, well, okay, I'll let you know. And then I started to check up a little more. And I never did get him a job. But I got it up and running. I had about 8 people there where they were all individual people. In other words, you come in to work for me. You really work for me, but not necessarily because you were an independent. So you're on your own, okay? You're bringing your own. Actually, the best guy in there was a truck driver. We had a personnel manager there. The personnel manager was the worst because he was so used to just interviewing people. The truck driver, what it was, you'd get on the phone book. If somebody come in and wanted a job for a carpenter, you had to get in the yellow page and start skimming through all the carpenter companies. Do you
Right.
need somebody? Need somebody?
Right.
And this guy was in that phone book all the time, where the other
Yeah.
guy wasn't. I had a couple of interesting people. I think it was a vice president of Disneyland come in one day, because I was
remember you telling me
I was
that.
very
Yes.
close to
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But the one that really stood out was this fella. He came in one day, an old fella, and he made a pile of money. I looked at his resume, and I was getting better now.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the resume, and I said, I can't get you a job. You're too old. You made too much money. I couldn't get you down below in the restaurant slinging hamburgers. I'm sorry.
Oh my God,
But
what did he say?
I'll have to get back to you, you know, and I'll do some
Yeah.
thinking on this one. This guy was the second in command that put the Apollo project on the man on the moon.
Wow.
And
Amazing.
the man's on the moon.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need it. Don't need him anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
And he's out of a job. Wow.
But we got to be good friends, though, you know,
Is that
until he
right?
got too heavy on the. So anyway, then all of a sudden now the problem starts. For suddenly the wife, it's summertime. I want to go home. Yeah, okay, all right, we'll go home. Now I got to drop everything. I basically turned it over to the folks there.
Yeah.
I go home, spend the summer, and I got into construction and demolition, 2 companies, when I was home.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place called Clarence Park. It was all wartime prefab village.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up tearing just about all of it down, taking it apart, selling them as they were.
Right.
I think it was like I was getting $75 to dismantle these things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd sell to some guy for $75, taking a chance he'd tearing it down, taking it away, or
Yeah.
trying to haul it away. So I got into that, and then a couple of places in Queen Square I tore down. And then I started building with the prefabs. I started putting them together. And I bought a swamp from my father-in-law and a barn.
A swamp?
Swamp. and I drained the swamp. Nobody wanted it.
Your name's not Trump, is it?
So I bought that's a good one. So I bought the swamp, got it drained, diverted the water. It all dried right up. So I put 6. But the first house I put was this prefab. Now I worked in all this hazardous stuff.
Yeah.
I took shingles, asbestos shingles, off of the prefabs that I was tearing down, saved them, and this is not easy. Anybody ever tries to take an asbestos shingle off of a wartime prefab, almost impossible. I had a way I done it, a little way I done it with a tack puller.
Yeah, because they'll crack. won't
Oh,
they?
absolutely. You had to get over the overlap and tack pillar underneath the own tap. And I put them on the house. You know, they go on
Right.
about asbestos and everything else. The worst thing I found in tearing down houses and stuff was this here fiberglass bats. Be up in the ceiling. They got loose. They'd be coming down. They itch you to pieces for
Yeah,
terrible.
Yeah.
So I got into those things. Was doing quite well. So now I'm going back to California. I actually went out there first. I should backtrack again. I went out there first and got a little trailer, living by myself till I tried to get going. And it was nice. I really liked it. You wake up in the morning, the birds are chirping. This was a different life, different life.
Nice. Mm-hmm.
So anyway, where was that to now? I got to the,
So now you've drained the swamp, and then you're
put some houses.
yeah,
Now I'm going back
houses
to
there.
California again.
Yeah.
Now, what am I going to do now? Now I got to start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a job in a mobile home factory
Mm-hmm.
called Crusader Mobile Homes.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just handy there. I had bought a trailer down there, mobile home. We were living in that. So now I'm into the trailer factory. Well, it started out that I was supposed to hang so many doors within a given period of time. Everything was speeding all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I convinced them to put me on doing trim.
Mm-hmm.
And then I graduated from trim to what they call, it was like a pickup crew. When the trailer was all done in the factory, it was out in the lot, ready to be hauled away. We had to give it another inspection and fix things all up. So it was like you were the elite of that.
Mm-hmm.
Went through that for that winter, back again for the summer. So then, I forget what I'd done then, but then back again. Now I'm into a boat factory, Erickson Yachts,
Mm-hmm.
doing teak and mahogany wood.
Mm-hmm.
You don't make much mistakes before you're gone there. You just can so easy.
Oh my God, it's expensive wood.
Erickson Yachts are still in business apparently.
Sure.
So I done that for that year, that winter, back again. Now, what the heck am I going to do this time? So next, I get into what they call a women's clubs publishing company selling cookbooks down there in Southern California. Nobody seemed like they could do it or be successful. And I found it so darn easy. All I done, I just got books of the different companies, and I just called them up, and they would put me on the fundraising groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, listen, we can give you 100 cookbooks free. Cost you nothing. And I'd get out and I'd be sitting with a little old ladies group there in Palm Springs and sipping tea and so on. Yeah. Anyway, the bottom line was, I said, how can you do this? I said, we can give you 100 cookbooks, put all your recipes, like 100 recipes of 100 different people, and you're going to sell these things for $1 each to them with no trouble, and their friends and so on and so forth. We'll put a picture of your school or whatever, a church on the front.
So that was a real fundraiser. And so the thing is, Bill, whatever you touched, you were able to turn it around and make it successful.
Well, I said to them,
small or large, right?
Well, I said to them, well, here's how it gets paid, and I'm getting $100 for this. Okay, mm-hmm. Here's how you get paid. We got a lady comes around, gets the advertising, so the advertising pays for it, and then you can redo this all over again.
Sure. And you know what? And that's remarkable because you had no training in all of this. It just would come naturally to you. What I wanted to ask you about is, I mean, you are the king of the flea markets.
Well,
you started them here. Tell us all about that.
Well, that was my next one there. So what happened? I'm going to these flea markets. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the Orange County Fairgrounds, I think it was. And you walk down.
This was in California when you started to get interested. Okay.
So I finally decided, I guess I've got to go home. I hate to think of it, but sad to say, I'm not going to keep my wife a note there. Mm-hmm. Oh, I just want to go back once. When I was out there looking for jobs, this was interesting. This day, it was a job for maintenance electrician. Mm-hmm. So I said to the wife, I said, we're going to go up there and check this out. It's up in Hollywood. Now, my wife don't want me near Hollywood. This is a bad country, okay? Mm-hmm. But I packed the kids and up we went. And so the great big house up on the hill, and I pressed the button, the guy come down, let me in, and there's this building there, it's like a bunker, concrete. Went inside, looked at all these switches and this and that. We got sensors on the ground, so we have dogs at a certain time, and they're very secure, okay. I said, I think you got too much for me here. Well, he says, I like Canadians, you know. He says, mm-hmm. Well, I'd like you to think about this. He said, you can gradually fit into it, I'm hoping, and so on. I said, well, I'll let you know. So anyway, he went back to the house. I went down to the gate. Darn gate's locked. Anyway, eventually he see me come out. I went on my way. One day I'm in a book, looking in the book, and here's the house. Mm-hmm. And I would have been a maintenance man. Uh-huh. Did I ever tell you that one?
Yes.
Who the house was?
Yes, I remember. Yeah.
Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner.
Wouldn't I? I'd been the maintenance man.
The maintenance man at Hugh Hefner's house. Woohoo!
So anyway, I come back and I brought the idea to the flea market. I opened up out in Sackville Drive-In, and it didn't take too long before it just mushroomed, brand new. Nobody else was doing it in Nova Scotia.
So at that time, there were none. There were none at all, really. No. Huh? And that was when? What year about?
Around 1974.
I see. Wow.
It ended up with 10,000 people every Sunday for over 30 years. The only thing that done me in was the government, against the will of the people, because the people didn't want Sunday shopping. Mm-hmm. Majority didn't want it.
Blue laws.
They brought in Sunday shopping. And I had Penhorn Mall. I was all over the place. It wasn't just Sackville. I opened up. Penhorn was a great one, indoor one there for the winter. And, so
and now you also the Forum, right?
So right now, the only one left, when they just finished this off there when they brought Sunday shopping. But the Forum is still going after all these years. Mm-hmm. And the family are running that now, not me.
Your family. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I went from there to other things.
Yes. How about owning a couple of castles? Like the
Well,
Olsen Castle for one, a castle in Ireland for two. Tell us about that.
yeah, well, Olsen's Castle, of course, I'm going to school right by it every day.
Yeah.
There it is. I'm going to Tire Road School right next door to it. It's like some guy would like to maybe climb mountains, and then you got this huge mountain alongside you, but the same idea. And all of a sudden one day it was up for sale. It didn't say the castle, it just said the land. It's all around different lots. It was subdivided. It was like $150,000 a lot. So I said to this Peter Ryan, who made the deal with a baron. Apparently, the baron owned it.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, this was the last guy. Well, of course, she had Olens herself at first, and they gave it up, and then.
Right.
And it was always a story too that he had brought over containers of earth, German earth, to spread on the ground so he could walk on German soil.
Oh, is
There's
that
a new
right?
one for you. So anyway, the castle came up on the market. It didn't come on the market, actually. He had it, but he hadn't advertised it. I called him up and said, what are you doing with the castle? This is like a dream, for me.
Oh, sure.
What are you doing with the castle? Well, sell it. How much you want for it? 600,000. I didn't have 600,000, but anyway. I said, okay. I give him 25,000. 3 or 4 months later, another 50,000. I had a guy going to go in partners with me to make it into condos. Now that castle was an absolute mess inside. It looked good outside.
Yeah.
It was ready to be torn down. The plumbing. What happened? Whoever was looking after the castle for the baron, the furnace went out.
Oh, so
the pipes are busted.
burst.
Everything is gone. The floor is up. The ceiling's down. The walls are down. The wiring. Absolute mess. Absolute mess. So what I done, I got a planner and we put it into condos on paper. So that's okay. So what happened was I got this fellow very interested. And he said, I'm just going to bring my wife down tonight just to finalize this thing. So I said to Peter, the owner, well, was trying to buy it. I said, well, if you want to let him in, you got the key. Okay. I never heard nothing for about 2 weeks. Finally, I chased down this friend of mine. I said, well, where are you at? What's going on? Oh, I bought the garage. It was a 2-car garage. He was going to make it into 2 condos. This Peter Ryan, the fellow that made the deal with me, he's got the key. He let him in. I'm not even in the picture. I got pushed aside. He sold him the thing. But then I sold it. Finally, it ended up, I almost had a problem there. I finally decided that I would get rid of it. I just didn't have the money to pay for it. And a Chinese guy come along. And I said, okay. So he offered me 700, but now I'm in a mess because I'm over the time, 1 day over.
Oh.
So my ex-partner, Richard Homberg, come up with the money. He made the 100,000. I went out, I cleaned up, went on my way, and so on and so forth. But this Jimmy Chin fella got it. And I was going to try to keep the top penthouse floor, I call it. And I think we were going along okay there. And then he said, I'm going to take out the elevator rooms, elevators out of it. I said, that's only a little, it's not much room in each floor.
Sure.
I said, I'm not going to take it if you're going to take them out. He took them out.
Oh.
He never sold the condo there.
Wow.
So he eventually went broke. Somehow George Armoy, my ex-partner, who said don't buy the castle when we were together, he owns it now. He got himself in there.
Never mind, you got another castle in Ireland.
So I'm going. One of the most beautiful trips I ever made was to Greece. The island of Mykonos and Santorini. Beautiful, beautiful. I took a trip over, and in this book I'm reading, it's this castle in Ireland. Now, the castles were cheap, about around 1975 or so, whatever, in that area. And so I checked out, went on, ended up anyway, I bought this Irish castle for 300,000. and it was in County Wicklow. And what I didn't know at the time was why it was so cheap was of a fertilizer factory just down the road.
Oh,
And,
sure, the
and
smell.
it was also very haunted, apparently.
Oh.
And two of the caretakers there, one fellow ended up at night strung up. The other fellow died of a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
So the caretaker that I inherited with the castle, he would have a dog in there. That was it. But it was in a place called Arklow.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
getting old, can't remember like you used to at 90 here, you know,
Look,
90
years old. God bless you, Bill. You are just amazing. So you've had all of these experiences and you've developed incredible businesses over the years. And he also owns Devil's Island in the mouth of the Halifax Harbor.
Well, I bought
another project.
Yeah, I used to go to tax sales, and this came up for tax sale, 30 acres. And I bought 2/3 of it for $600. I mean, it's
Wow.
a full-fledged island. I'm the only big private owner in the harbor with an island.
Wow.
And what was interesting about that one, the other third I didn't know, but during my adventures here, you want to call them, I come across some other real good properties. One I bought down Terrence Bay. What a lot of people don't know is I've donated, I shouldn't say donated, I gave them a good price, let's put it that way. 600 acres of Terrence Bay I had of water frontage. Practically the other half of Terrence Bay. American come along, wanted to buy it, put houses there. I had 24 hours to give my thoughts. I walked in the government. They took it. Next morning, I got a check, $165,000.
Wow.
Okay, and a third of Devil's Island that he threw in the pot. And I never even asked for. Wow. And then Lawrencetown Beach, I gave to. I should keep saying gave but I actually offered it them for $5,000 first, and they didn't take it. They said, "Well, that's a protected beach," but they ended up another Conrad's Beach. Another person had a little piece on there. Politics got in there, and next thing I'm offered $85,000. So they had Lawrencetown Beach, Conrad's Beach, Terrence Bay, and some other properties that the government province got for me, which was. So I went on to other things. There ended up with an animal shelter, 5 years, no-kill shelter, 5 years, 300 and some odd dogs and cats every day to look after.
Bless your heart.
Oh. Yeah. Then I got into the cemetery business.
And you have a cemetery, and you have an historical society.
Yeah, Canadian Heritage Preservation Society. It's really not doing much right now.
Busy guy. It doesn't matter. I mean, you've accomplished so much. Grade 6 education, right?
Yeah.
And trying circumstances in reform school. Your mother in a mental institution. You know, family ripped apart. But you persevered, Bill, and you're a remarkable person.
Well, you know something, right now I've got on my plate about 30 projects, but it's just
and
me.
Growing, I know you.
And I'm sitting there, and I've got 12 tractor trailer loads of stuff. Terrible collector, worst collector, got to be in Nova Scotia, worse. 12 trailers for 50 feet long, trying to figure out what to do with them.
I know, with all of these artifacts and antiques and maybe a little junk here and there, but you don't even know what's in there, my friend. Eh?
I have a lot of good museum stuff. I got some interesting, very interesting
over the years, the things that you've collected. And you know what I wanted to say, Bill, because we need to close now.
Sure.
So this program is about peace. I wanted to ask you, so having dealt with all of the challenges that you've had in your life, I always find you to be a peaceful man.
I try to be, yeah.
How do you do that? How do you find your own peace, Bill?
Well, a lot of it's helping others. Like I live right now, I'm living in a bachelor apartment. Unfortunately, I shouldn't even say it, but unfortunately, I did get a divorce after almost made 50 years, 49 years. But we just didn't, you know, fit.
Yeah, I know.
But you still got great. You know, we get along great and everything else. But I'm living in Northwood with the seniors up there. It's a big complex. I've been volunteering there for about 25 years.
Yes.
And I'm on many different groups there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working with these seniors, the older people.
Yeah.
Doing all when I had my animal shelter, I used to bring down pets there 25 years ago
Mm-hmm.
for them
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Well,
I know the senior community is near and dear to your heart.
very much so, and
Yeah.
so many other ways that over the years, you know, I think I've done my share of helping.
Yeah.
Volunteering, 40 different societies, 40, you name it. I think I've been in them, helping them one way, shape, or form.
Do you sleep?
Actually, you know, it's amazing. I sleep as good as I do.
Well, gosh, maybe because you're doing such good things, you have nothing in your head to keep you like worrying.
Well, I got problems. Like I have cancer for 7 years, but I've managed to keep it at bay, and it's not all easy.
Yeah, and look at you though. I mean, wow.
Dancing 10 days out of a dozen.
Dances all the time, chases the ladies.
No, not really. No, I just like dancing. No.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, everybody, I'm so pleased to have had.
You're quite a girl yourself, you know that too. We know that you've been around. No.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Bill, for honoring us with your presence. And I hope that you all have a very peaceful day. Namaste.